Good evening and welcome to MOMENTOUS Live, episode
Hey.
106. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Tasia Custodi.
I'm Gray Williams. I'm Will Sofer.
And here we are, a couple of us in t-shirts, lovely summer weather outside, still 13 degrees in the greater Vancouver area. I don't know, is everything on fire in Arizona yet, Tasia?
It was 80 today.
All right, so is that per liter or per gallon?
Brisk in here, you know.
All right, well, it's warmer than my house.
Fair.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready?
We're
Ready
ready.
for some... All right. So before we jump into our stories, a quick shout out to, a report went out for Gordon Moore, one of the co-founders of legendary chip maker Intel, passed away this week at 94. And as I was mentioning before the show, it was a weird week for me. 3 Gordons died for me. The Gordon Moore, who is the namesake of what Moore's law, which is that old maxim that the density of circuits on a processor doubles every 18 months with its subsequent costs for the same cost and size and all that kind of stuff, with the subsequent power increase as a result of that density increase, and so on and so forth. It's been kind of that term wasn't phrased by Gordon or coined by Gordon Moore per se. It was someone later on, but his name lives on in that phrase. Moore's law is with our ever increasing computing power, and just when they think there's we've hit the ceiling of Moore's law, there's some new innovations to get us further and further along there. And now they're talking about Moore's law as applied to like battery technology, which has been really, kind of in some ways really stalled for a while. But then we're looking at things like graphene superconductors and stuff like that, which hopefully will take us to the next level. So yes, Gordon Moore. Unfortunately, I lost my great uncle Gordon and a brother-in-law Gordon. So it's 3 Gordons this week, and please just keep them all in your thoughts. They were all important in their own ways. So into our stories, we're going to talk a little bit up front about some security stuff, because it's a little on the important side, and just so give people the alert. There was actually a story a couple of weeks ago that we didn't get to. It's actually almost a month ago now. Yeah, February 24th. There we go. There was a lot of hullabaloo about a basic iPhone feature that helps criminals steal your entire digital life. And when people hear stuff like that, that's quite alarming. And there's a story in the Wall Street Journal by noted journalist Joanna Stern about this whole story. But what it sort of the crux of the matter had to do with people, if they get your iPhone password, what they could do is get in there and change. There's a mechanism for changing your iCloud password, and once someone's done that, then all bets are off in terms of what they might be able to get into and be able to lock you out of your iCloud account and various devices and the like. Now, the main thing is that if people don't get your iPhone password, the whole idea was that, someone's shoulder surfing you in a bar and seeing you, tap in your password there, and then maybe in a moment of weakness you leave your phone on the bar or at a table or whatever, and then someone yoinks it and knows your password and can go in and right away start changing other settings and passwords in iCloud and whatnot. But Gray, I mean, as someone who's been an iOS user for a long time and reasonably security minded, what are some quick tips here to avoid being shoulder surfed, or to make one's password more secure? Because there's a few different options, even just on the home screen. There's the biometric side, but of course just the password itself on one's home screen. Any thoughts there to avoid this whole thing before it gets into someone even just changing your iCloud password?
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at this sort of objectively, there are several passwords that they have to have in order for this to work. So the first would be the screen lock. And you have the choice between a 4-digit, a 6-digit, or actually using a keyed in Word. I think most of us now has switched to 6 digits because it's a little harder to brute force. So there's that.
Even if they're all the same?
Well, you can pull a President's Scroob and go full Spaceballs, but we're looking at password strength. I think a lot of folks out there are still creating passwords that are a jumble of letters and numbers and symbols. And as far as mnemonics go, being able to remember those things, they're hard. You're going to have a Post-it note around somewhere. They've actually found that if you take 4 unique words that sort of fit together in your mind in a string, that actually makes for a very effective password. It's easy to remember. It's hard for computers to guess. It's really hard for somebody who's watching it to track all of those letters as they're going down. So try
Is
that.
it battery horse staple or something?
That's the one. That's Rex KCD. Yeah. So,
and even I've heard like a lyric from a song. So I guess since most of the time we're often using biometrics, whether it's Touch ID on certain older models or on the iPhone SE, or a lot of Android phones have a fingerprint reader, or the Face ID on iPhones, and similar features in some Android phones as well. So we can rely on those mostly because you need your biometrics. And for those times when you need to key in a password manually, you're suggesting a pretty skookum password then. And that's going to cover our bases.
I mean, for now, yeah. The passwords are starting to go away. Like we've obviously seen passkeys start to show up in iOS, and like a physical hardware key, like a YubiKey, is probably not a terrible idea either. This is a piece of hardware that would plug into your phone or into your computer that you have to have with you in order to log in. And it basically uses, it's touch sensitivity. It's closing a circuit, but it has to have that in order for that to unlock your password vault. That's I've got a couple of YubiKeys around here. I use them with my devices, and they're great.
So one of the workarounds that people suggested had to do with setting a different password for screen time to get away from this issue. But then apparently that is not foolproof either. We've got some links in the show notes that have some tips on how to protect one's self there, but using Face ID or Touch ID as much as possible. So unless someone, takes your fingers, and even that doesn't work because apparently you still need the electric current in your fingertips to make your Touch ID work, or it takes your face, John Travolta, Nick Cage style. We can rely on the biometrics for the most part, I trust. But there are a couple of more recent stories that are a little spookier. Whenever we hear the phrase 0-day exploit, that means when no one gets any notice of that, including the hardware or software vendor. So apparently there was an Android app exploit that I believe this affected. Was this the one that affected mostly? Because there was a couple of different reports, and forgive me, this was done in haste. But there was one report of an issue that affected mostly Pixel phones and Samsung phones, I believe. But this sounds like it's a little bit different. This is a 0-day attack from Pinduo Duo. So, anyway, we're not going to get into the super duper details of this, but we just wanted to put an APB out to people, a little alert. If you've got an Android phone, make sure you've got the most recent security updates for your version of Android installed, and always avoid side loading, for example. Tasia, as someone who's been using Android phones a little bit more in the last couple of years, as you've been testing out Pixel phones and whatnot, what have you gone and done things like installed alternate app stores or side loaded any apps? What sort of what security liberties do you take, and what security precautions do you take when you're using Android phones, because they are a bit more open than iOS ones?
I take no liberties. I play by the rules, as everybody should, especially specifically for a lot of those concerns, because, like, as a perfect example, to get an app, into like Google Play, as opposed to say like the Apple App Store, sometimes there's different parameters that can be met, and sometimes they're like a lower bar is set. So you just kind of want to make sure that you're always downloading authentic apps from like a trusted developer, not copycat apps. And you guys know, like, I rarely even run like betas on my phone. Like, I really don't like to do anything that could screw anything up. So little rule follower over here.
That's probably good advice. I think as each of us has been advancing in age, we are doing less things like installing betas and all that sort of stuff. I know that I used to do a lot more of that back in the 90s. And Gray, you were doing all sorts of stuff too. That as you need to actually get work done, sometimes you don't want to take a chance of like bricking your main work machine, be it a laptop or a phone.
Yeah, it happens once, you're done,
Exactly.
and it happened once.
So, and another more current security story. It's one that I'm surprised Will hasn't contacted me about yet, because we often have conversations as regards security, which is good because Will is always vigilant, looking for things that better safe than sorry. And guess what, Will? We got new MacStealer macOS malware, which steals passwords from your iCloud keychain. You excited?
Yeah.
Woo!
Do I need to be worried, Tristan?
Well, well, we'll let Gray get into some of the details there. But in general, the just a quick overview of this particular story. This is a piece of malware that is malware is a sort of a blanket term that exists. Includes things like viruses, Trojan horses, and worms and the like. But in this case, it's often like a Trojan horse, where it's an app trying to be disguised as another app. But the interesting angle for this is that it's part of something known as a malware as a service. So as the malware industry continues to grow and proliferate, you have these companies who are operating these, in their minds, legit services, where we have software as a service known as SaaS. Well, here we have malware as a service, and they're offering their little software starter kit for aspiring malware deployers for only $100 US. So, Will, you too could create your own malware and have it distributed on all sorts of download sites on the net. Gray, what's the main takeaway from this whole story, and how can one avoid falling victim to a situation like this with the macOS malware, which so many of us Mac users are really not used to?
I mean, the biggest thing here is being aware of where you get your software from, right? I think for the vast majority of people, stick with the Mac App Store, or download directly from the developer. We're starting to see that a lot of links from Google have been, compromised. So ultimately, good practices here. If you are installing an app that the installer doesn't look quite right, the software, the website that it came from doesn't look quite right. If it's asking for strange permissions, if it's asking for access to the microphone or to your camera, and it's not supposed to use those, chances are you may have a problem on your hands there. So also, there is anti-malware and antivirus for Mac. Install it, use it.
One of my favorites is Malwarebytes. There's a free version where the only difference being you just have to run the scans manually. You can pay for a premium version, which you can schedule your scan, but it is well regarded in the industry, pretty lightweight, not going to bog your system down like some of the other scanners out there. With this particular situation, the malware developer claims that MacStealer can steal the following data from compromised systems: account passwords, cookies, and credit card details from Firefox, Chrome, and Brave. Interesting, it doesn't mention Safari there. Documents including TXT, Word docs, PDFs, Excel files, PowerPoint files, and various different graphic formats. And here's the key one for me: extracting the Keychain database and collecting Keychain password information. If you're like me and you keep all your passwords in your keychain. Hey, I'm just doxing myself online. Come steal my keychain, everybody. Like some people use LastPass or 1Password or not MacKeep. That's a different one. There's MSecure is another one. Keep all your passwords in one secure database. Well, there's a built-in one in the Mac and in iOS known as the Keychain, and you can also store secure notes in there. Now, the only danger is when you've got all your eggs in one basket. If someone gets access through your system password or some malware, they've got the keys to the kingdom. Like, quite literally, it's the Keychain. So this is the thing that concerns me most about that, because then they've got everything, and next thing you know, they could be getting into your banking and all your passwords from your websites you access and whatnot. That's not great. Even more, apparently, this claims to be able to access some of your software wallets, your hot wallets, such as MetaMask and others. I don't see Jack's on here, Jack's Liberty on here, but maybe they'd be able to get into that as well, since certain credentials would be stored on your machine, or at the very least in your keychain. So one of the articles in our show notes, can describe at great length how this all works. I just think it's fascinating that we've got something known as malware as a service. But in terms of how to avoid this, just to build on what you were saying there, Greg, you alluded to maybe avoiding using Google to look for software. It's like, oh, I heard I want to download Microsoft Word. Burp, burp, burp. I'm going to type Microsoft Word in the search engine, see what comes up. Well, Google's generally pretty good about screening out the crap, but if someone maybe is able to slip in there with some aggressive AI-powered SEO, I'm looking at you, Tasia, or some Google ads or whatnot, like you said, either go to your official Apple App Store, the Mac App Store, or the actual vendor website, be it like Microsoft or Adobe, or if it's a smaller vendor, like make sure that you're finding the actual website, because there's all sorts of actual legit other places like Softonic and Mac Update and places like that, but people could be poisoning those as well. So Mac App Store and vendor websites to help prevent you from inadvertently downloading something that isn't what it's purporting to be, and thus opening up that vector for malware to get into your machine. So, Will,
Yes,
there you go. There's your advice. Don't download software from websites if you're not 100% sure it's the actual vendor. Don't use Google to find your software. Go to the vendor website or use the Mac App Store.
gotcha.
All right, now go and spread it to the rest of the world. Okay, moving on. So we've got our security notices out of the way. Now something a bit more fun. A couple of things dropped today in Apple world, one of which is iOS 16.4. And we're not going to get into this too much. I'm sure Tej will be doing a video on it in the next week or two, as she sometimes does. But we've got some new emoji. We've got voice isolation in phone calls. One feature that I've heard, I'm not sure if it's unique to this update. It's just something I read recently, where you can restart your iPhone just by asking it to restart. And then it'll ask you to put in your password in order to do that. But that's pretty handy. Some of the new emoji. Hey, we finally got a goose, pea pods, a hair pick, tuck to the hand, someone vibrating there, a gray heart. We got some maracas, a donkey. I'm surprised this Wi-Fi symbol is new. Voice isolation for to increase the quality of voice calls, finding help for finding duplicates, support for PS5 controller. Gray, why on earth would someone want to connect a PS5 controller to their iPhone? What's the angle there?
Well, specifically, this is the PS5 DualSense Edge controller, which has the back paddles. For games like Fortnite, you can also actually stream games like Destiny 2 from your PlayStation to your phone, and having the controller that you actually use is quite helpful. That one has back paddles for jumping and things.
Gotcha. So yeah, people forget, it's easy to forget that gaming on these devices, more than just casual gaming on our mobile devices, some people are doing actual hardcore gaming, and the touch interface is not great, especially if you're an old. So if you're used to having a proper Xbox or PlayStation style controller, now we've got the features added for the latest version of the PS5 controller, which is great. Updates to Apple Books. That's still a thing, apparently. They had removed the page turn curl animation and people freaked out. And so they've added it back. Woo, there you go. And some other changes in there, some changes to the music app, to the podcast apps, and so on and so forth, wallet, Apple ID updates, and so on. So we'll drop a note in the show notes about that. But alongside this release of iOS 16.4, and I don't have the link here anymore for some reason, but we have Apple Music Classical, if anyone is interested. I was able to download that last night, and this is the result of a purchase that Apple made a couple of years ago. And the name of the company is escaping me, that Apple had purchased. It's not off. Can't think of it off the top of my head. And they kind of sat on it. Well, it seemed like they were sitting on it for a couple of years. But one of the things about classical music, when it comes to regular music platforms like, formerly iTunes, now Apple Music, Spotify, and the like, is that there's the metadata with classical. It tends to be a lot more complicated. We've got not just, you can have multiple performers, but you can also have conductors, and then there's composers and movements. and it's just a lot more complicated. And the regular music platforms just aren't all that great at handling that, and also making sure that certain movements are stitched together. So if you think you have things on kind of a quasi shuffle, pieces aren't getting chopped up all over the place. So a lot of concerns by avid classical music listeners are addressed by this app. And it's not perfect from what I've heard. Kirk McElhearn, who's a prominent Mac journalist out there and classical music guy, he said basically it still needs some work, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So this is kind of cool. I mean, it's a large market in its own way, and unfortunately, we just saw Sakura's classical music store in Vancouver close, I believe, last year. So good online sources for classical music are always nice to have, and to have a company with a lot of resources like Apple addressing it helps address that sometimes underserved market, especially in the digital realm there. All right, you guys ready to talk social media?
Oh, we're ready.
Woo!
Now, this first story is from a few weeks ago, and it just kept getting bumped for one reason or another, because it's in some ways it's a little bit silly, but in other ways it's tragic. TikTok has a teenage filter that they added, and it was making Gen X feel old. So, as the one deepest into Generation X here myself, I thought I would include this, and we've got Will Gray is right on the cusp there. He's got his feet in both worlds. It was interesting seeing the reactions of people using this filter and posting their results onto TikTok. And what this filter would basically do is make you look like a teenager again. And what people were posting in this, the most moving part of this is that people were posting their reactions, and they were, as the kids say, they were shook. So you see this, the one example we have on the screen now. Some of them are more dramatic than others, but people seeing themselves as they may have looked as a teenager and recapturing some of that. There's that whole kind of nostalgia, that kind of sort of a weird kind of joy, but also a sadness for times that are gone and you can never get back. So it's just kind of interesting to have a look at that and see all these Gen Xers like ourselves who are like, wow, I used to be young and look at me now. But not to be outdone. There was the moment was coming for the millennials and the Gen X's. The millennials and the Gen Zs as well, or Gen Zs as we say here, I suppose, where there's another filter known as the beauty filter, which people were using, and generally a lot, some of the younger generations. And this beauty filter is next level, much less distortion, even when you've got occlusion from hands and the like. So we've got similarly people posting clips of themselves online, totally made up with this beauty filter, and then snapping back to themselves with no makeup, or with no virtual makeup on at all. And just kind of that shock, similar to the whole, de-aging filter, but we've got this beautifying filter, and how that made people feel about themselves. And then sort of the discussions that open up about how this may be impacting people on a larger scale, especially those who are maybe a bit more vulnerable, a little younger, still working out there, they're working themselves out in terms of who they are, their body image and the like. Now, Tasia, I know that you are not a big TikTok user per se, but you've been using Instagram for a long time, and I assume and of course Snapchat is one of the ones who popularized filters years and years ago. With sometimes they were bunny ears and dog faces and other things, and sometimes you could do face swaps and whatnot, which were funny. But things like this, when they seem to, when they make us look younger or make us look quote unquote more beautiful, they can really strike us to our core. So someone who's a social media user and in the public eye with your own YouTube channel, and you're not shy about doing shorts and things like, whether it's Taylor Swift related or otherwise, when you either experiment with tools like this or see other people's reactions, what kinds of things start going through your head about what this means for us and our self-worth and the like?
I think it's troublesome, to say the least. So I look at stuff like this and it's unsettling to me, and I feel like I'm generally a pretty happy person that's pretty confident in myself and, you know, everything I bring to the table, including and not including looks. But and if I find it troublesome, I just feel like I cannot, and we've talked about this before, I cannot imagine being like my niece's age, you know, like a teenager, or like even younger kids now that are on social media, which is like a whole other argument. But it's just keeps promoting this like false sense of like vanity, and it just puts vanity at the top of everything. Like you have to be attractive to XYZ. And it's like, in order to like, I just feel it's constant bombardment. And whether you're talking about TikTok or Instagram, like none of it is real to me anymore. It's all just people like, this is the best part of my life, or this is like apparently what I look like. And then IRL, they look nothing like this. So then also, not only are you putting like a false image out there, but like what's that doing to your own self-esteem in terms of like, you think that's what you have to look like in order to, I don't know, get respect or get the job you want or get whatever, you know, I'm not really sure what the point is of it, but it's like, there's that part of it where like, what's it doing to your own self-esteem when you watch like a video back of yourself, but then you go and you look in the mirror at like what you actually look like. It's just creates these unrealistic standards. And I get it. It's the new wave. Like we used to be bombarded with that in magazines, like complete unrealistic standards in magazines. And so this is just like,
but that wasn't us. That wasn't ourselves. Those were
right.
You know, the models,
it was,
the beautiful
we were
people.
aspiring to be something else. You know, I just think this can get extremely dangerous because it's setting people up for this standard and this level that does not exist. It's the same thing we see with like, anytime a celebrity, heaven forbid, ages gracefully, and I put that in air quotes, or, you know, whatever you think, and everyone goes, oh, this person, look at what so-and-so looks like without makeup in real life. And it's like, what are you saying to everybody? We all look like that. Like, what are you talking about? And so it's just like, we just keep setting these standards for each other where it's like, at least something like putting a horse face filter on, you know, that's not realistic and it's funny. You know, when we face swapped, it was funny.
Yeah.
This other kind of stuff, and like, I get it. Like most of our cameras now have like smoothing effects built in and stuff, which is already problematic because if you forget that's on, then you're like, and you look in the mirror. But I just think it's dangerous. And I know I sound very old about it, but like, it's just so troublesome to me. And I don't know how you police that or regulate that. I don't know if you should necessarily, but it's just like, it's messed up. It's messed up. And you all know those accounts you've seen online where you're like, this is not what this person looks like. And it's not these fun ones where you see people, or these sad ones where you see people reacting to these filters. It's people pretending that this is what they look like. It's sad on all sides. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally agree. And I think I'm old just along with you, Tasia. And like, I also look at this and go, this is what people think beauty is. I mean, like my perception is totally different than this. So some of these things look horrific as far as I'm concerned. Like that's not what I would think beauty would be. But I guess also I'm old and people don't ask me. And it is dangerous to a certain extent as well. Like you say, that these are the expectations people are setting or the false faces we're putting on the internet. And these things do end up affecting people's, esteem going online and seeing other people. And if you don't know that they're putting on a filter and that affects you, I mean, for me, I just think this whole thing is crazy. But again, me old.
The wild part is that this isn't just about, sort of smoothing out your skin tone or fixing your eyebrows or adding some color or et cetera, et cetera. We're actually, some of these changes are structural, like the positioning of the eyebrows or the width at certain parts of your faces, how square your jaw is, the shape of your nose and the like too. So some of these things, get even deeper, like, because one of the things is that you could do, well, you could say, okay, well, I tried this filter and it made me look pretty. Maybe I'm going to go do my makeup like that, whatever. Sure. But when you start looking at filters that are making some more structural looking
Mhm.
changes to your face, then you're like, oh, well, there's only so much makeup can do. Maybe I should start thinking about like plastic surgery and all these and you know, especially when people are younger and more impressionable, like this is just these beauty standards we've been talking about for decades, like going in overdrive, right? And of course, there are
Yep.
people ready to capitalize on that. Great. Before we move on to the next story, just real quick with the any input that you might have in there, given that your experience in, say, whether it's virtual worlds or avatars, gaming, and the like, and there is something to be said for being able to put on a different persona. But when we get into the situation like this, where it looks like you, but it's not, and like the person you're seeing on screen is different than the person you're seeing in the mirror, as Tasia mentioned. Any thoughts before we move on to our next story?
Relating to people online, there is a human on the other end. There's Penny Arcade had the John Gabriel Greater Internet Dickwad theory, this idea of anonymity and dehumanizing people. Tasia's right. These apps kind of they smooth out the edges, right? And so we start seeing each other as a little less human, because humans don't look like that. Humans sometimes does, but humans don't. So when you're having these moments on social media and you're struggling with the contents, the keeping up with the Jones, all that sort of stuff, it's just another person on the other end of the line. Their life isn't as good as the pictures would say, and you don't need to worry about it. Just go be. That's my Yoda-like moment.
And if we have young people in our lives, we have to do the best we can to direct them to healthy online activities, maybe discourage the use of certain filters. Like I don't have any kids myself, but a lot of nieces and nephews and kids of friends, and some of whom are in that, that tweenager or close to it kind of range. And you think, oh boy, like these are not the kind of problems that we had when we were growing up. Another type of problem we're seeing, we've talked a lot about AI over the last year, but you cross AI, which machine learning powers a lot of these filters. Some of them go hilariously wrong. Like Samsung has a photo remaster feature to help beautify your photos. But in some cases, they can do things to baby pictures that you might not expect, like adding teeth to babies that shouldn't have teeth.
That's terrifying.
Yep. So if we can transition out of this problematic topic with something a little whimsical, but all these babies are going to have self-image issues. Like, how come I don't have teeth yet, like all the other cool babies?
Right.
It is a concern.
It is indeed. All right. Before we get into one of the key stories for today, just this another handful of social media news. I'm going to throw some headlines at y'all, and I want you to maybe pick one to comment on. I'll do round robin, going clockwise in here. So we've got 4 stories from the last month or so. One is Messenger is finally coming back to the Facebook app. Meta buried the news in a post that's supposed to reassure users that Facebook's neither dead nor dying. I guess with maybe some people thinking, well, Facebook, the proper is going downhill, so they've got to put Messenger, which is maybe more popular with some people, back into Facebook. I remember the outrage when they split Messenger into a separate app, and people were like, bruh! But they were thinking, what it's working for WhatsApp, it's working for Snapchat, and not to mention Telegram and Signal, all these things. So hey, like let's double our space on the shelf, kind of like the new Coke, and then we'll bring back Coke Classic, right? But in this case, Facebook Classic never went away. So that's one story. Another is, so you'll be able to soon, have Messenger back in your Facebook app. Honestly, I don't have a problem with a separate app, but whatever. Everyone's got their own call. Thoughts on that? Twitter news, and this just came out today. Twitter secretly boosted accounts instead of treating everyone equally. So despite Elon Musk's comments a number of months ago saying how, the things were going to be flattened out and democratized. It wasn't going to be all lords and plebes anymore. Well, it turns out there's about 35 accounts, including Elon Musk's own account. And that was publicized a month or two ago because he was concerned not enough people were seeing his tweets around the Super Bowl and more people were seeing Joe Biden's. But that being said, Joe Biden and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and some pundits on the right, and some other celebrities and athletes such as LeBron James are included on this list of 35 people. So that kind of runs counter to this whole idea is that, well, everyone's equal if you pay your $8, of course, and we'll get to a related story in just a moment there. So, what is this? Is he saying one thing and then kind of doing another? To my mind, this is maybe people who are getting more engagement. So if these people are getting more engagement, let's make sure that there lots more people see their stuff, so they'll get even more engagement and more eyeballs for Twitter and advertising, blah, 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 blah. In a related story, Musk says that as of April 15th, only tweets from Twitter Blue subscribers, so those are the people who are paying $8 US a month now, will be recommended in the main feed. So in the past, I guess, whoever happened to be getting engagement and their tweets were going viral and whatnot, they're getting lots of replies, retweets, likes, etc. They might show up in based on what the algorithm determined would be good to show you in the For You feed. But as of April 15th, only people who are paying Twitter Blue subscribers will show up in there. Similarly, only people with these paid accounts will be able to vote in polls. And what he claimed was this is the only way to combat the AI bot swarms. And, he had been complaining about bots for the last year on Twitter. So, but now is he basically throwing in the towel, say, well, we can't do much about bots unless, pay your $8. And then lastly, so that's it for now before we get into the old TikTok. So Tasia, any of these that you want to comment on? You want to choose one to comment on before, and we'll just do a quick round robin before we get into TikTok?
Facebook never should have separated out the Messenger app. Let me tell you right now, I have notifications off for it. People DM me all the time. I can't even call it a DM because, sorry, it's not a direct message because it's not in the friggin' app. Okay, it's its own app. I never check it. If I'm scrolling through my apps on my phone and I happen to see, I have notifications here, that's when I check it. It never should have been taken out. You talk about them like wanting more shelf space, and it's like, yeah, but they forced users into it unless you're on desktop, where then you could still chat like via Messenger within desktop. But it was just, you didn't have to do it. Why were you trying to compete with other messaging services? Like, it would have been more fruitful to leave it inside, much like what they're doing with Instagram. And, do you guys ever have like 17 conversations like going on? Because like sometimes you have like a chat thread with somebody, but then you have like your SMS, but then or your iMessage, but then you have like your Insta DMs, and like you could be doing with the same person different things, but like it makes sense because it's topical and you're sharing things from within the app. And it's like Facebook lost it when they took that out of the app. That's what I'm saying. Interesting.
And this is one of those things where it's maybe a bit of a Rorschach test for people as well. And it's hard to believe it was 9 years ago they split them.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, 2014.
Me olds.
Stop making
Brenton
us
Twain.
feel old.
Now, I actually have to say that even though I was a little concerned at first, the way that I use my mobile devices nowadays, desktop's like a different issue. And like you said, it's still integrated into, the main web interface for Facebook. On my phone, I have my notifications on Facebook turned off, so I don't have to see that red badge, but I have them turned on my Facebook Messenger. So on my home screen, it is one of my messaging apps in the second to bottom row. And I know if there's a notification there, well, then that's a real actual message. And I don't have to worry about, if I'm seeing a notification on like a Facebook badge that could be a message, or it could just be a mention or whatever. So for the way I use my device, I actually prefer splitting up. And now I'm hoping they don't force everyone to only use the one, because that would kind of go contrary to my usage pattern. So maybe having the option, like to serve both needs, like making it so you could turn it on or off in Facebook proper, but then still having the separate app for those who want to. Because one of the things that's being discussed right now is possibly, and that Elon has been rattling around in Elon's head, is separating out Twitter DMs into a separate app, because some people use Twitter DMs so much as well. So just rumors at the moment, and if I can find any actual stories on that, we'll cover that in another episode. But again, depending on your usage pattern, if some people don't really use Twitter for news and all that, but they have a lot of people with whom they communicate, a lot of journalists, for example, then maybe that's something that might work for them. Again, and maybe you could turn it on and off in the main app. frankly, I find the messaging on so many different platforms a little stressful because
Yes.
I would rather just do everything in my messages app. It's like iMessage and SMS, and that's it. I don't want to see stuff on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter and this LinkedIn and this. And it's just like too many places to check. But that's the world
iChat
we
used to do that.
live in. Say
Remember
again?
that? iChat used to do that back in the day.
Well,
Right,
I
you could have
remember.
an AOL
I remember there was
account
ADM.
Jabber.
Yeah, and there was some that could pull in multiple feeds. And I did iChat do that? I know.
Yeah.
I never was really in the iChat ecosystem back at that point. Anyhow, so thank you, Tasia, for your perspective on there, even if it's incorrect.
Can I tell you why they split the messaging app out? They were looking at WeChat, right? They were looking to see if they could create an ecosystem around the conversation as opposed to around the post. They couldn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
Here we are.
But it's interesting. Meanwhile, one of the other Facebook properties, WhatsApp, is still huge, and they don't try to be everything. So anyway, let's go
including
to
attractive.
Gray, what's your one of these stories to pick on here?
I thought we just did.
We got the say again. You just did?
I thought we just did.
Okay, because we've also got the Twitter secret boosting, the Twitter blue for getting into the only the for you and for the polls, and then there's actually one other story I forgot. Twitter's decentralized alternative Blue Sky arrives as an invite-only iOS app. This was like a month ago now, but Jack Dorsey's been backing this alternative. And it's interesting because it's the idea sounds similar to Mastodon in some ways, except it doesn't sound like it is a federated social network. So, I mean, like another thing that's going on. Anyhow, anything to add on any of those other stories, Gray, before we move over to Will?
Looking at a decentralized alternative from Twitter, would anybody trust it at this point? I don't think anyone would. And honestly,
but it's not Twitter itself. This is a different company.
Yeah.
But not trusting Jack Dorsey is what you're saying.
I wouldn't trust Jack Dorsey. Yeah, like he bailed it at the worst time. He tried to just block. I don't know. Anyway, looking at Twitter, it's a dumpster fire, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, but it doesn't seem to be getting any worse. So it's sort of like looking at a terminal patient going, how much longer do you have? Because there's good technology here that we could harvest, but I'm not really sure. You know, it's like the doctors sort of circling for organs.
And their market cap has dropped to $20 billion now, down from $44 billion that Elon bought it at. So he's calling it a reverse startup now.
Right?
Of course he
I think,
is.
I think that's called a shutdown.
Don't get Will started.
Well, he says he can see a clear, if difficult, path to $250 billion. So we'll see about that.
Sure.
Yes,
Will, which of these do you
time?
Will, which of these do you want to tackle before we move on?
I mean, just in general, Elon being Elon. I mean, I can't really pick one of these apart other than, things like the Twitter Blue boosting those ones. I mean, that's just him trying to monetize it, thinking he's a businessman or whatever. It's like, you just hear the words now that from inside companies and people that have been looking at Elon for a long while that he just creates chaos and destruction wherever he goes. And it's kind of the cult of personality. So I think, this kind of fits in with us giving him attention and with just being kind of a jerk and playing around with stuff. So I don't know. It's just Elon being Elon. I don't really care anymore. It's just a bit of a fool, if you ask me. So,
well, one could make the argument in this case where with polls, by making it so that only, and even the for you, by making some of these features like that available only to premium subscribers, the Twitter Blue, et cetera, that you're increasing the bar for people who have bad intentions. Here, like an allegory would be, can you imagine if you had to pay for email, how much less spam you would get?
Mm-hmm.
So now, but because email is practically free, you get all the spam all the time, and the costs are borne by the recipients. So if you address that here, like that similar kind of issue here, where you've got bots or people gaming polls and this and that and the other things, like he's like, you know what, it's $8 a month. If you want to play, you got to pay. Is that such a bad idea?
Okay, maybe not. But here we go. So there's a guy in my soccer group who used to yell all the time, and he used to say the F word, and he always used to get into trouble. And security used to come down and tell him to stop. And I would say, Charlie, it's not the F word, it's the anger. You have anger behind the word. It's not the message, it's the delivery. So in some ways, it's the way Elon rolls these things out. It's the way he likes to, send poop emojis to media. It's
Auto reply.
Some of these things, if you take them and you separate him out, it's not a bad decision. But the problem is he's right there. So it's like he's part of the decision because he makes it about him. So that is the fucking problem. Sorry.
Wow, that escalated quickly. I'm feeling a lot of anger.
That was great.
Well, it's just the guy's a clown. Now, the other thing is that, as you know, I'm on Midjourney a lot, right? Yes. And I especially recently, my subscription just rolled over, so I'm like prompting the HE double hockey sticks. I'm not even going to try to say things that could be even vaguely a bad word.
Okay.
So, so I've been prompting like a ton, and I see other people's prompts, and you see some interesting things. I sent you guys one about somebody prompting an obese Barack Obama, and they kept on prompting that. But do you know who I see get prompt the most as celebrities? Putin, Trump, Elon Musk. Those are the three that I see without a doubt the most. For some reason, like Trump kissing Putin is one of the number one things that you will see in some sort of variation, maybe not kissing, other variations on the same theme. We'll leave it there. But yeah, he's up there. And one of the ones that I've seen more than once is Elon holding a piece of paper or holding a computer or writing something saying, "I love my fans," or "I love you," or something that. Yeah. And it's like, because it's about him. It's not about the product anymore. It's just a platform to him to get his personality out there. So I apologize for the young children listening. And for your various parents and my various parents that I use the F word.
That's all right. No one's listening. Okay, so now that we've done our little social media roundtable here, let's get into TikTok, which has been all over the news, in not only for the last couple of years, but in the last week, especially as we had a U.S. congressional hearing where they were grilling the CEO of TikTok, who is a Singaporean national, I believe. And there's a lot of baggage that comes up with stuff like this. But I just want to give us a quick recap, and then we can dig into this a little bit from four total expert non-TikTok users. One is, this was again a month ago, the government of Canada actually has banned TikTok from government devices. So this isn't just the US, with concerns here. There are more and more organizations that are saying, oh, maybe there's some issues there and we should be careful. Similar to what we've been seeing with, concerns about Huawei network equipment in the US and maybe now so in Canada, as more and more is learned about the CCP's adventurous ambitions when it comes to technology. Let's put it that way. And then, of course, we've got the hearings that happened late last week. And there was an interesting article from G0, which is Ian Bremmer's organization. He has a podcast called G0 World. And it took a look at some of the arguments for banning TikTok in the US. And I imagine by extension Canada, because often where the US goes, Canada follows. And the case against a ban. So just real high level, some of the points for a ban: TikTok answers to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and basically any corporation in China. They have to do what they're told, and a lot of times there are people, insiders from the CCP, there to monitor certain activities with access to the most sensitive data. Then there are issues related to that about weaponizing the amount, all the user data that is being collected. Now, some people are saying, well, Facebook and Google and YouTube and Instagram, all these, they're collecting all this data as well. It's like, true, but the US government, if they want to access any of this data, generally speaking, there's a warrant process and whatnot, unless they're using nefarious means. And that's the home team, right? I think we could probably all agree that there's a difference between the style of government, however imperfect it is, in the US and other Western countries, and the style of government in China. I don't think it's a controversial statement.
It's not.
So there's, user data. There's also the notion, I think this is actually perhaps the most, one of the most, even more so than the user data issue, is the notion of influence. When you have basically one of the largest, most popular social networks in the world now, whose algorithms are being controlled by who knows whom, and are subject to the influence of the CCP. It wouldn't be much of a stretch of the imagination to say, you know what, we're just going to push or turn the dials a little bit on this sort of stuff going more viral. Because with TikTok, it's not so much about who you follow, but the kind of stuff you followed the consumed in the past. And you watch a couple of cat videos, next thing you know, it's all cat videos. You watch some
Yay.
You watch some organic farming videos, next thing you know, it's all organic farming videos. You watch a couple of Nazis, next thing you know, it's all Nazis. Not so many Nazis on there, but you get what I'm saying. So they could, say it comes when we get closer to election time, and especially add the whole layer of the deep fakes and AI generated images and videos and and audio. The next year and a half is going to be crazy in the lead up to the next US general election, and I'm not looking forward to it, but hey, it'll give us stuff to talk about. If the CCP can, twist these dials a little bit to point people more towards one type of content than the other, that's a real thing that could impact hundreds of millions of people. 150 million monthly active users in the US alone now. That is literally half of their population. So that's an issue. One of the other things, China already bans all US social media platforms in China. So, Facebook isn't in China, YouTube isn't in China, Google isn't in China, Instagram is in China, et cetera, et cetera. So why should TikTok be in the US? I think that's an argument that some people, reasonable people, can have. Now, on the flip side of that, some people feel that, well, a ban is un-American. We get into free speech issues and things like that. It could very well be illegal for similar reasons. That's the First Amendment right there. It would be harmful and unpopular with young Americans. And we've seen all sorts of people mobilizing, a lot of TikTok users on there, basically. I mean, some of them maybe have a livelihood at stake there. So, of course, they're going to be rallying their troops and protesting what they see as a potential loss of, if not their livelihood, a major source of entertainment for them. And there was all sorts of memes and cut-ups of grandstanding politicians in Congress who are trying to make their point, but some of them are a little woefully tech illiterate. And so you had, of course, they cherry-pick some of these silly questions, of course, ignoring the ones who actually had some good questions and were really trying to hold the TikTok CEO to account. And he wasn't giving great answers on a lot of stuff, being quite vague. Another issue, it would only have symbolic effects on US data privacy and national security as opposed to actual effects. And it would make the US-China relationship even more dangerous. So those are some in the pro column and some in the con column. We will be linking some other articles. 9 questions about the threats to ban TikTok answered. And this, I believe, came out after the actual hearings. And then another article from The Verge. Another article from Polygon basically saying, you know what, if some of these people are trying to ban TikTok in the guise of protecting young women, teen girls, well, they don't need to protect it from TikTok. They are TikTok. So there's a whole argument to be had there about the ownership of the medium by the creators. Now, they don't technically own it, but if it weren't for the creators, that content wouldn't be there. Oh, one other little side note, however, that the Chinese version of TikTok, which is known as Douyin, they don't have a lot of the same type of content that there is on TikTok for the rest of the world. A lot of it has to do with civic virtue and the importance of studying and working hard and stuff like that. There's some entertainment on there, but not nearly the kind of stuff that you see on TikTok itself. So again, it's one of those cases where China has a certain way to deal with its own people and what lets its own people see versus what the rest of the world can be spending a lot of their free time on. And how healthy is that? So, but this article gives, a little bit of a counterpoint, saying, this whole procedure is paternalistic. Teen girls don't need protection. One could, again, have a reasonable discussion about that. And then another issue here is TikTok is trying to address some of the concerns from the US Congress by hosting its servers in Texas. Now, does that still prevent CCP members from actually accessing their data? I think the wires go around the globe. I don't know, last time I checked.
Mm-hmm.
And then another little a little thing, just like a footnote to the story, is that TikTok is actually, ByteDance, the parent company, has another app called Lemon8, which is more like an Instagram rival. It's been around for about 3 years now, but it looks like they're ramping things up in the anticipation of ramping things up for Lemon8 for promotion of it in anticipation of TikTok possibly getting banned in the US. So, but then it's like the same crap, different pile. Right? Are we going to end up having a hearing for Lemonade in a couple of years?
Yeah.
Anyhow, there's a whole lot about TikTok there. And I'm going to, again, start with Tasia as our social media maven here. What is your hot take, or even your more considered, deeply considered take on this whole TikTok situation?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. However, I understand why it's banned on government devices. And that is because they have proven that they are, just like how we did in the States, you did in Canada now, China is using it to track certain users. So that is why they went, whoa, we can't, if you work for the government, you cannot have it on a government device. Like Doi. I just want to say before we begin, I'm
name.
sorry, was it on people's government devices? Like, wait, what? Like, I feel like even if I worked for I don't know, any company, they would be like, hey, this is our device. Don't download social media apps on it. Like, it's just so bizarre to me. Like, I think of Brett working at the bank, like, he wouldn't put TikTok on. First of all, it wouldn't even be able to be downloaded on that work device. So, I just don't understand, why that was a thing to begin with. But anyway, in terms of, will it be banned for users? I really don't know. And purely because of what you say, in the States, everybody likes to claim it's the land of the free. I'm going to say claim because I got a lot of qualms with that right now. But I just don't know, how much that's going to be seen as an overreach in terms of doing it on, you have a right as a citizen to Google whatever you want, as another example. So what
Just not Mac software.
Right? So what does it matter, the apps that you have on your personal device? So, and my general thing is we're walking around with small computers in our pockets anyway. So you're pretty well being tracked anyway. And also if China wants my data, I really am not doing anything super interesting in my day. But with that said, there's a larger conversation for people to understand where these apps are coming from, what data any of these apps are tracking. We look a lot into that in AI. We talked about a lot, and people are so eager to work with AI and test all these chatbots, and it's you're adding to the system, which is what we need. We need, to work out the kinks, but it's people just don't realize. It's what you're saying, we'll make local servers in Texas or whatever. It's do you understand how this works? I don't think you understand how the technology works. So it's just a lot. And I do think it would create a huge issue if it does get banned on personal devices between the countries, which is oh boy. I'm going to crab walk out of the room at that point. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I want nothing to do with this.
Homer disappearing into the bushes.
Yeah.
Will, you've got some young people in your life, nieces and nephews and the like. What's your take on the TikTok situation, and what's your hope for the fate of TikTok in the US and maybe the rest of the West if other countries follow suit? I'm surprised the EU hasn't been on this.
I'm a little biased because I don't really care about the TikTok. My nieces and nephews aren't really on the TikTok. So I don't I'm not a big fan of it. I do, personally, I think there's probably not well, almost certainly, as Tasia said, there's no good reason to have it on a government device or a work device. My work reminds us about, downloading software that we're not using for work. So, that was mentioned to me when I started, and that's brought up constantly about not using trials of things. Like if you want to use something, buy requisition the actual software, don't do a trial. So yeah, I don't think there's a good reason to have it on a work device. And, I'm not a big fan, so it wouldn't really hurt me either way. So yeah, I feel like I don't have an opinion on it other than it's probably not a good idea. And given tip for tat, like you said, Tristan, that, many North American apps aren't available or software isn't available in China. So why is it such a big deal if we ban it here?
Because we're not a communist country.
Yeah.
And we might have a whole lot of influencers storming the Capitol. It's going to be a hot new trend.
Tasia, I keep on thinking as we've been talking, I don't know if you ever watched Team America World Police, but freedom isn't free. There's a hefty frickin' fee.
Great for my ovaries. Freedom.
Gray, what's your last word on this TikTok situation? Whether you, knowing that you are someone who is concerned about government overreach, whether it's under regulation or sometimes over regulation. We were all followers of Michael Geist on the Canadian scene here, for example, and there's been issues with, like, say, YouTube, Bill C10, C11, and the like. This is a bit of a different beast, but given what we know about TikTok's influence in the world, the powers that might be behind it, the seeming hypocritical nature of the arrangement, the social media sharing arrangement between China and the West, but also the ability for organizations to use tools like this, and if that's a good thing or not. How would you sum up your thoughts as we put this story to bed for this week?
It's a shame that it's such a powerful platform for so many great creators, because the way that they've actually sort of bludgeoned everyone with the algorithm means that it does feel like there's something hinky going on, and I can't shake it. So if it were to get banned, I don't think I'd feel terribly bad, but I also wouldn't feel very good. So ultimately, the government's going to government. I got no idea what's going to happen. At this point, Elon Musk is probably going to end up in charge.
Well, under the previous administration, they wanted, like, Microsoft almost had a kick at the can, which would have been interesting. Can you imagine, like, Bing Chat, aka Sydney, like, she has its own account on TikTok and becomes a big influencer, and then somehow we're like getting that into, and now it's on Xbox, and I don't know.
Just Balmer over and over. Developers.
Oh yes.
You actually you make an interesting point about the whole algorithm thing, because there's been so much consternation about algorithms over the last few years, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the like, and the desire for so many of us to simply see the output from people we follow, content creators we follow. But instead, all these platforms are trying to push the algorithmically chosen stuff into our faces. And now we're talking about a platform that is almost all algorithm, and people don't seem to have a problem with that. So it's like, I don't know.
It's also just another lesson.
Al Gore.
Al Gore. That's funny.
Didn't he invent TikTok?
He did.
Go ahead, Tasia.
It's just another lesson in, like, something my client always says is social media is rented ground. Like, you don't own it.
Yeah.
So has some rented land.
Exactly. And so, like, it's all about diversifying. So whether you're a content creator on TikTok or, like, whatever you're doing is, like, that can go away like that, regardless of whether the government shuts it down or not. So you need to be thinking about that strategically if you make your money off of a platform.
Fact.
You say rented ground. I always like to think of them as nightclubs. They don't have to let you in. They can kick you out for any reason. They don't like your face. They don't like your shoes. But your client's way is a much more businessy. So
that's true, though. It's a very good point.
So that's enough on TikTok for now. Again, none of us are really on it, so we don't have a lot of skin in the game. It's just one of those sit back and eat the popcorn kind of stories. But one place where we do have a bit more skin in the game, I think we're all on Instagram, some more than others. And there's a little, for those who maybe have trouble putting Instagram down, one of the things that I've tried really hard to avoid on all platforms is the whole, again, the algorithmic feed, scrolling, Instagram reels, because Will has sucked me into that space a couple of times. And next thing you know, a couple of hours have gone by. It's like, what is happening? So I try really hard only to look at the things that Will sends me from Instagram reels and not scroll up to the next story, because it's going to be more fun, cute cat stuff. And maybe it's some stuff I can send back to Will if he hasn't seen it already. But there's that whole like time suck issue, not to mention, mental health and all that kinds of things. So we just want to point people to an article from CNET from a couple of weeks ago, and it's called "Take Instagram Off of Your Phone and Thank Me Later." You don't need to completely distance yourself from Instagram to develop a healthier relationship to the app. So it's a bit of a autobiographical take about Instagram and more broadly social media and the advantages of taking breaks once in a while. And this doesn't just apply to Instagram, but others. Some people recommend removing social media apps from your phone so if you want to use, go access Instagram or Facebook or what have you, you've got to go to your web browser, and that's a bit of a jankier experience. And, and maybe you could even like have your phone block certain things like that. Just quick round robin, starting with you, Will. Have you ever found yourself spending a little too much time, be it an Instagram or another app? And what have you done to kind of course correct? Okay,
let me start by saying, don't read this article. If you get rid of Instagram, you're a quitter. You're a quitter.
we need a constant stream of cat videos. Don't quit Instagram. Film your cat.
Nothing but goodness. Don't read these people or listen to what they have to say. Scroll as long as you want.
Oh, now that you have that out of your system, I'm sensing a lot of anger there, even though you didn't have to use the F word this time.
Quitters!
Use the Q word. Go on, elucidate your thoughts.
No, I've never really, I've never gotten to the point I hear people taking off apps or having a break or something like that. Sometimes I've seen people do that, and it's a little bit more of, I don't know, a call for attention or something like that. Like,
FYI, I'm quitting Instagram.
Yeah, somebody.
We'll see you on Plurk or whatever.
Yeah, somebody I follow on Instagram posted a picture of a hearse and said that Instagram was dead for them, and that they couldn't handle the constant needing of likes and all this stuff. Guess what? They were back 3 months later. I've never brought it up with them, but it's like, yeah. Anyways, so I mean, if you do have a problem, take it off. But I mean, I go on waves. Like, I was all about Facebook for many years, and then I kind of got off that. And yeah, I mean, I've never course corrected myself, so I can't speak to that.
You are a paragon of self-control. Love it.
Yes.
Everyone's different, right? Some people's personalities are a bit more addictive than others, and we're, because these things literally reprogram our brains. There's all the things like neurotransmitters and stuff like that. Tasia, how about yourself? What's your best practices for some of these platforms to maintain a healthy relationship?
I have a problem with Instagram, like to the point where, do you guys ever do this? Oh God, I hope it's not just me. Where like, I go to my phone and I'm meaning to open a different app, and somehow my finger opens Instagram, and I'm like, oh shoot! And so
I do that.
Like, yes, and I'm like,
you just close the app and then you open it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now that I'm here, no, but like it's just. Yeah. So I have a massive issue, and like you can imagine, like what my For You page is. It's like literally all Taylor Swift videos, but it'll go between like T Swift to like cool hockey trick shots to like a house design. Like it's a very like, but these last 2 weeks after the Taylor Swift concert, I mean literally everything I was being fed, and still for the most part right now, which, you know, then I just feed into it more because I'm like, what's this video of Taylor? And I do that endless scroll. So I will say this, I don't know if you guys remember back when Instagram was pulling that bull and like changing like the algorithm again, and changing how like stories came up in the feed, and changing like what your feed looked like, all this kind of stuff. I actually couldn't use it on my iPhone anymore because it was such a jarring change, and they only did it to certain people's devices. And I think I remember telling you guys that like I could still access it on the Pixel. My same account was like the original account, but for some reason on iPhone they had chosen my account to like do this new algorithm thing, and it was driving me nuts. Because of that, I actually stopped going on Instagram for legitimately, it was like a week and a half that my account was like that. I would just very rarely, like if I noticed the notification like pinged on like the Android device, then I would be like, oh, what's, you know. And it was one of those things where after like the detox of the week, I was like, oh, I really don't miss it. I hadn't, you know, after that initial like, I need it. It was just like, oh, okay, I need it. I need the hit. But like, it's the same. I can at least say I can do it. Like if I'm near family or if I'm on vacation, way better at it because I want to be like in a moment. I want to be with people. I hate when I'm with people and everybody's just on their phone. It drives me bananas. And so like, I just keep myself, but when it's me and Brett, he's at one end of the couch, I'm at the other. There's some show on TV and I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
And he'll just hear like random reels of Taylor Swift audio, like just scrolling through my phone. Guys, it's a problem. Help.
Well, this is a safe space. Thank you for sharing. Gray, you've been known to take breaks from one platform or another in the past. Do you have any best practices for Instagram or other platforms to maintain a healthy relationship with said platform?
Start following things that you hate. You don't like,
there you go.
You don't like pickles? Follow pickles. And just get things that you really don't like in your in your feed. And it's amazing how much you just don't want to be there after that. So it's
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a question. On TikTok, is there a way to make a video play just once?
Oh, instead of that
Because
automatic
over and over. Because you put the phone down. This was an interesting video that was 3 minutes long, and suddenly it's starting again. And I'm folding laundry, and
this is how everybody has millions of views.
Yeah,
this is why everybody gets all the views.
Yeah.
Just passively replaying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might be in the settings somewhere. You know, it's funny because I actually, one of the things I liked about Vine, rest in peace, that it had that, you know, it was like the proto TikTok in a way, 6-second looping videos. But part of the cool thing about the looping is that challenge of trying, like I did like almost like like low rent cinematograph type stuff where find a scene, whether it's like some running water or whatever, and just keep that phone really still and just try to capture a nice serene scene like that looped really, really well. And that was what I did. I wasn't, you know, one of those creative people that was doing like comedy routines or musical bits or whatever that lasted 6 seconds long. And that if those looped, they get a little annoying. I was doing more of the stuff that with the looping in mind. So yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up and see if anyone can figure out a way to turn off the looping in TikTok and some of the other platforms. Because I agree, because it's the same kind of behavior on Facebook and Instagram Reels too. And that's
YouTube. If you click on the shorts in the app, it will play the same short over and over again. If you go through the shorts tab, it will cycle through them.
Don't even get me started on YouTube Shorts. Like the creators are being like kind of compelled to make all these shorts now because of the algorithm. And so now the people we follow, we're getting their regular stuff. Maybe it's once a week or a couple times a week. And now they're desperately doing all these other shorts too. And a lot of it's the same, like shorter versions of the same content they've already done. And like, it would be nice if you could have them in like a separate channel or something like that. It's just like, it's just more clutter, but it's tough. It's because it's not only it's audience capture, it's platform capture, right? And Tasia, I know we've had this discussion in the past when Instagram launched Instagram IGTV, and you were wondering, should I be bothering with this? Because, you know, is this the only way that I'm going to get seen on the platform?
Exactly.
Yeah, another thing to do.
Which brings up the good point. we had talked about that at the time, and then they finally, they killed it honestly pretty quickly.
Mercifully.
Killed it, kind of, wrapped it into whatever Instagram is now. But I am still shocked that Shorts is still around. I probably said to you guys, like, when it first came out, like, I was like, well, how long is this going to last? Because we talk about this all the time. You don't have to be all things to all people, and these platforms need to get it. Do something really, really well, and YouTube already does it. Like, you already do it really well. And so it's like, just keep improving on that. It's remarkable to me, like, each month I'm getting like a new creator newsletter about something else they're doing to promote Shorts, or putting it in this tab now, or this feature for Shorts, or now you can use this music, which is really also kind of a scam, which is a whole different story, and all this kind of stuff. It's still awful. And I'm so sorry to say that as a YouTube creator, and YouTube pays me, and thank you very much to my Google gods or alphabet gods. But it's just like, put the horse out to pasture. You understand?
Yes.
They can't. The reason they can't is because you've got people who are making content for all the platforms, right? Because TikTok eventually is going to knock somebody off. There's a linguist that I follow, his name's Sun Michaud, and he's been banned on TikTok 3 times. So he brought his stuff over to YouTube. So inevitably, when his account does get permanently banned, he's got a backup. And so YouTube, I think, is seeing this. They're seeing that Facebook's kind of in the muck a little bit. TikTok is not handling their content moderation well. They know that there's an opportunity here. So it's not so much about getting YouTubers to make more Shorts, which they are, but really right now it's about capturing other platforms and bringing them in.
I have an idea. They could learn from Facebook and split YouTube into a couple of apps. The Shorts app. And then they could have a YouTube messaging app as well.
Yes.
I mean,
I think they should have a clothing line of YouTube Shorts.
Ooh.
Delete your account.
Board.
Incidentally.
I never thought of it that way, though, Gray. I never thought of it that way. Which, maybe to your point, like, doesn't TikTok now let you do like 10-minute videos?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
it's going for YouTube. That's the thing. It's like it's going like this, right? So that's why we got to ban them. All right. We're going to skip. We have another story, but we're going to push that off to next week because some people need their beauty sleep. So that was a good chat. So let's get to our picks and our projects real quick here, starting with you, Tasia. Who is this?
This is Philomena Cunk. That's Cunk, and it's a mockumentary series. This is a BBC trailer, but it is available on Netflix. And she is a fabulous actress. I don't know if you ever watched Afterlife on Netflix with Ricky Gervais. She's in that, also fabulous. She's been in a ton of stuff, but so she plays Philomena Cunk, and it's a mockumentary. And honestly, you guys, I don't know if y'all have watched this, but like some of the episodes, like it almost gets uncomfortable because she interviews experts in whatever field. So say it's like, somebody that's an expert in archaeology or whatever, or civil war. And she asks the most ridiculous questions, deadpan, complete straight face, says just ridiculous things that's like, is this an adult woman asking these questions? Or says kind of borderline offensive or rude things. And like watching these people, they answer her and they're trying to be respectful back. Brett just keeps saying, she's crazy. Like every time we watch the episode, he'll just be like, she's like next level. She's crazy. And it's like, yes, she is, in the best way. So strong recommendation on my part. Be prepared for like cringe, but like literally every scene is multiple laugh out louds to me. Like I can't, and almost to the point where you have to pause it because you're laughing and then you have to keep laughing and you don't want to miss the next joke that is coming. It's too good. And there's like a recurring joke through each episode that is also just like so random, but fits in and you just bust a gut every time. It's like, oh my God. It's fabulous.
I have to second that. I've seen a number of clips of hers. I've never sat through an entire episode. I'd have to do it without Stephanie because she cannot take that cringe or embarrassment sort of humor.
Yes.
But it does have echoes of like the Ali G or Borat or Bruno sort of thing. Not quite as over the top. Like she's a pretty controlled, character, but just like you said, just I don't know, and interviewing people like for these quasi documentary type things, and then just asks the most seemingly innocent, like naive sort of questions that are just like make no sense whatsoever. You're like, oh my God. And these people are so polite in answering her. It's remarkable. So, I mean, Gray, you can only take limited doses of it, but it's a work to be. It's BBC, so it's fancy.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Gray, what's your momentous pick?
My momentous pick is the ShiftCam ProGrip, and so this is a grip for your iPhone. You can use other phones with it as well, but this does have MagSafe built in, and it's actually a MagSafe charger. And so you've got a Bluetooth shutter up front, a great grip, the little plastic nub is still in there, but it's actually got like a hand strap that goes around it as well. And you can shoot in portrait or in landscape. It's great. Wow. This thing is fantastic. Putting the shutter button on the actual where your finger is. If you ever do one of these like group selfies, you don't have to like reach for the screen or the volume button. Or do the say cheese thing, which is okay. But like this feels like a great little camera accessory. The battery life on it's quite good as well. So this has a battery that's running this device, but the battery that's in here will also charge the iPhone twice. So there's the ShiftCam ProGrip. I love it.
I remember a similar device a number of years ago, sort of in the iPhone 4 or 4S era, that wasn't nearly as fancy. It didn't have the charger, for example, or the swivel arm, but it just simply had the button. And just having the button alone was great. Now, the only concern there is that the company, because it was an independent company, they didn't stick around, and then they didn't update the software that was required to make that button work as a shutter button. And so basically ended up with a brick afterwards. So that would be my question with this.
This is just
how does this work?
This is just a Bluetooth command that sends the shutter button. That's it. There's no software. There's no app.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
They have a creator kit, which is a little bit lower end than this. Magnet's not quite as strong. It's a smaller body, and it has a tripod that comes with it, with a ring light.
So what have you found is the best application with it so far? What have you been able to, or been inclined to shoot with your iPhone that you weren't before, now that you have this grip and what it offers?
Mostly pictures of my cat.
There you go.
Or a Steadicam video.
To Instagram.
Right.
All right, Will, your momentous pick.
Well, it's probably not all that surprising. It took me a while, but Ant-Man Quantumania. It's a little controversial. I know that some people don't like it. Some people are mad about certain characters. And what I would say to those people is grow up. It's just a movie. I didn't have a problem with things that I've heard complaints about. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting, unique world that they were showing, and a lot of fun ideas, and really done well. And the super baddie was super bad, and I enjoyed it.
All right. So another fun, relatively harmless Marvel movie, with the lesson being, don't read the comments on the internet.
Yes.
Good stuff. My dumb pick of the week is called Lander. Growing up, I was always when I'd ride the ferries, I'd often play a Lunar Lander, which by Atari, a beautiful vector graphics game. This is just a silly thing I found a couple of weeks ago that is all just basically done in JavaScript that you can play in the browser, and it's the super stripped down version of the same idea. And you just have to land at the bottom of the screen, and you have to be at a reasonably upright angle, and you can't land too quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. And you just kind of, you just use your cursor keys as your controls and hold the up arrow while pressing the left or right. Oh yeah. It's to try to do your various controls is actually trickier than it seems. And sometimes you can do multiple things at once. So you can even like do a barrel roll. And then once you get it going,
Uh-oh.
it's really,
This reminds me of asteroids.
yeah, except it's more like, it's the same era. It's Lunar Lander, but give it a try at ehmorris.com/lander. And you can see how tricky it actually is. So that is my momentous pick. It's Lander,
Cool.
just a little bit of fun. Spend a few minutes frustrating yourself and then get addicted to try and beat your score. And now I can't get the volume playing out of my ears because it's got a little song that plays. All right, real quick, let's wrap this up. Projects. Will, you got another looper for us this week?
Yeah. So level up 16. It's a solo one. I think I have something like almost 50 loopers that I've
Good job.
done. So so I get distracted with my side projects, but this is kind of my main series, I guess you would call it. And it's just a bit of everything. I usually try to have a wide variety of BPMs. Sometimes I throw in some sort of EDM or some house music or something like that. These are mostly trap, hip hop, soul, boom bap, that kind of thing. But I like to throw in the odd one once in a while.
I like to get bibimbap at the local Korean restaurant.
The bimbap, yeah, I love the bimbap. I think there's an electro track on this, so you probably like that, Tristan. And check it out on tableist.net. I think you'll probably have a link in the show notes, but there's a web looper. But you can also download the Table Beats app and search for Molotov or level up 16. Oh, look at that. It's actually on the screen.
There you go. I for one, am waiting for your bulgogi beats.
Yeah, bulgogi beat. Oh, man, that needs to be a name of a looper. How about cheese corn? No one else knows that joke.
We'll get there. All right, Tasha, you've got another wonderful YouTube video for us this week. What have you been doing all week, Tasha?
Guys, it's just been me and my AI chatbots. Like, I have been in it to win it all week.
Nice.
So this video that just went out on Thursday is inside Bard. I jumped in, ran all the tests, show people how to use Bard, what it can do, what its capabilities are, all of that goodness, how to use it, how to access it. And then I am working on more AI videos for this week. So stay tuned on Thursday because there's going to be a comparison, y'all.
Ooh, teaser.
Yep.
How's it perform? Over 4,000 views so far. So it's a good start.
Performing really well. Yeah.
Nice. And so we
hopefully on Thursday, y'all watch the comparison one because it has taken me forever to put together. And I mean, I am really getting into nitty gritties. And it's like battle of the chatbots. And then I'm declaring a winner. And I'm just going to say, y'all don't even know.
No spoilers.
Nope. And then the following week, the video on Bing Chat's going to come out. Guys, I'm telling you, I've been all in it. Okay.
Nice.
Woo, baby.
Looking forward to it. And people can find your videos where?
You can head to youtube.com/Tasia Custodi or just Google Tasia Custodi.
Lovely. And you can find out more about Momentous at momentous.tv/links and more about your lovely and talented hosts at momentous.tv/team. And we're getting closer. We're in the 60s now. Momentous.tv/podcast. The whole back catalog of the catalog of past episodes for your listening pleasure. Let's have a look and see the beauty, behold the wonder of and look, it even came up on Google. How about that? Look at
Stormy. What an adorable cat. I'm just going to say, I don't need Instagram right now.
Aw. So, momentous.tv/podcast. And we're up to October 22nd now. How many episodes? I don't have the episode number in here. But we're in the 60s now. So we're on the home stretch, folks. Hopefully, maybe by next week, maybe the week after, it'll all be up there. And the next thing you know, we'll be in the Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that good stuff. And we'll be posting them, not quite in real time, but close enough. Much closer than the last couple of years anyhow. So that's it. We did it. Good chat.
Whoop, whoop.
Lots of social media, lots of TikTok. We had to skip some stuff until next time, but that's okay. Until then, we hope your week is truly momentous.